Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to Popternative. This is the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions, the worlds of TV, film, news, sports, music, everything really. Depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. And returning guest on Popternative, you'll recognize him from Letterkenny and very soon on Disney Plus, The Mighty Ducks Game Changers. Dylan Playfair is back on the show with us. Dylan, welcome back to Popternative.
PD Beats, good to be back, pal.
I'm really happy we're able to do this. I mean, last time we came on, we talked about Odd Man Rush, which was exciting. And of course, now another hockey project, right?
Yeah, it seems to follow me everywhere I go, hey? It's in my blood, I guess you could say.
Did you kind of, that's something I always thought about too. Like, did you know because of your hockey background that you were going to kind of be like do hockey projects, or is it something that you didn't really realize at the time?
Honestly, man, I never, ever in a million years thought it would translate like that. I was a big fan of Friday Night Lights when I was playing hockey, and that was, I think we might have touched on that last interview. That was a big part of why I became an actor, was watching Taylor Kitsch, and he played in the same league as I did. And I just thought, you know, that would be cool to do a sports thing in general, because there's, you know, the essence of all sport is really quite similar. You're with a group of guys, you're battling for the same goal. You want to win the games, you want to win the championships, and there's something so, I feel like, primal about that. But then to be able to, in my career, play hockey players to the not just like over and over again, but different kinds of hockey players. You know, Riley's so different from Dean, from Coach T. Like these guys are all, I mean, they're human beings in certain sets of circumstances, and they just happen to be in hockey. And yeah, it's been really cool. I feel very fortunate.
So yeah, I mean, Mighty Ducks Game Changers on Disney Plus. I mean, it's just like when we found out that there was going to be a show, there was excitement. I think it tripled when the trailer finally showed up.
Yeah, and not just for the fans, for everyone on set too. I mean, I remember being on set when it came out, and every single kid, as I'm sure you've seen in the trailer, it's based on the Pee Wee team, the Mighty Ducks. They've become sort of the Hawks of the 2020s, and with that comes all the sort of politics that come with, you know, high budget hockey, youth hockey, and to see how it came together, and to see the elements of the old genre of the Mighty Ducks and what made that so successful, mixed with the new age humor. I mean, the podcast humor and the hockey academy, you know, relevancy. Like, I played in an academy. I get it. I've seen those crazy, you know, moms and dads that hire sports psychologists for their 12-year-old kids. Like, it's all real, you know? It's so great. I love it.
And it's pretty crazy because, you know, people go on the internet all the time, you know what I mean? They go on IMDb, they see like Dylan Playfair, Mighty Ducks, right? They see the trailer, and you're like, you're in the trailer, like you're right in there, like you cut him.
It's right funny actually. We gotta get the IMDb on the horn here, because I'm listed, I think, as
it's just one episode.
One episode, and I mean, the fans will figure it out when they release it on Disney Plus, but Coach T's in a lot more than just one episode, and that actually that happened sort of organically. And, you know, going back to the whole hockey comparison that you speak about, it was kind of one of those things where I showed up, and I think I did some of the right things in camp, you could say, in the early stages of the season. And Coach T went from one little part to a pretty, you know, significant role in the whole series. So yeah, it all sort of stems back to the same thing. You show up, you do your work, you make friends, you play nice, you do what you can, and if you're a good fit, you end up sticking around. And that's kind of what happened with Coach T and the Mighty Ducks. I ended up to do quite a few episodes with it.
And you had a chance, obviously, to see. You saw the trailer and everything, and you've seen the kind of playbacks. I mean, it looks like the movie from the '90s. Like it looks like it.
And that was a huge part of what drew me to the project, because you see a lot of these remakes, at least when I was growing up, and they didn't necessarily deliver the same punch. But I think with Cobra Kai, we mentioned that sort of off the record earlier, and with Mighty Ducks having, the support of Steve Brill, who was the creator of the original. I mean, it's really hard to mess up that formula when you've got the same people just modernizing the scripts. And I think that was a big part of it, was like, let's not try and reinvent the wheel here. Let's take what was effective in Mighty Ducks 1, 2, and 3 and essentially just adapt it for today's day and age. Like, what about hockey is different now than it was in 92? And, you know, there are tons of academy teams. There are crazy moms and dads who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year getting their kids to play high level hockey. And, you know, there's humor in that. And I think having grown up in the game, to be able to sort of take a step back, and I've done it with Riley a lot, you know, in Letterkenny, where I've been in those rooms with those guys, and that's hilarious. But then to sort of take it one step further and to turn the camera on the parents and the absurdity of some of this really, really expensive high level academy hockey, like, it was a lot of fun to explore that. And then to have Lauren Graham and Emilio Estevez, like, are you kidding me? I went to set, man. I was just like, life is crazy. I'm in the Matrix. I'm dreaming, man. It's a dream job. It's the most incredible job in the world. I'm so lucky.
It's amazing. And of course, you know, it's really cool that you're going to have the OG Mighty Duck fans watch it. You're going to have the new Mighty Duck fans watch it, because you're going to have like the new people that are on Disney Plus and the new generation, kind of like what happened with Cobra Kai, right? But you're also going to have the Letterkenny fan who's going to watch this. Have you ever thought about that, man? That's a good one too.
I have. Yeah, it was at the front of my mind for sure. Cause you know, that was something that I spoke with the creator of the show about. Was obviously a big part of the reason why I became a part of the show, if not the biggest reason, was because of Letterkenny. And, you know, touching on the humor, because it's funny with that character, Riley, like, so much of that is my Dylan sense of humor. And that character is really, having played hockey that long and come from that hockey world, it's just parts of me turned up, influenced by some other people I played with in that setting of that incredibly good writing that is Letterkenny. So, you know, finding the humor with Coach T, but also making it original and appropriate for Disney and Mighty Ducks. So that was a really fun process, and I'm really quite proud of what we got, because I think it's gonna satisfy the Letterkenny fans. There's a ton of jokes that are, you know, they're gonna land for that crew. But then there's also you know, the heartbeat of what made Mighty Ducks so good, which is this like really strong moral compass. So I'm stoked on it, man. Like, I'm really proud of this project.
Absolutely. Everyone always like watches Letterkenny. They love Letterkenny. I think one of the things too is they watch Letterkenny is a very bingeable show. The episodes drop, everyone watches it. You know what I mean? It's an exciting time because, you know, Letterkenny just seems to be kind of that show where people keep going back and also watching past episodes. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, it's cool to see the
longevity.
The new fan. Yeah. Not only the longevity, but the momentum that it continues to build. Because, you know, for us, I mean, we started that show. I think we shot the first episode in like 2013 or 2014 when it was on YouTube. I mean, it's been a minute. We've been doing it for some time now, but almost every time I check the old Twitter sphere, there's someone who is going, I can't believe I had just found this show. This is incredible. And they started from the beginning. And then, you know, with the pandemic and being in isolation, a lot of people are rewatching the series from the start. And it's, it's kind of like everyone's dream to be a part of a show that affects the pop culture of the day and age. And that's where we are, man. We have more fun than I think we're allowed to have on that show.
Moving kind of away from the hockey projects, although we love talking about them. I mean, there's a flick that you were in and worked on, a horror movie coming out called The Sinners.
Yeah.
Which is just phenomenal, and I love that film. And it's finally going to be coming out. That's an exciting time too. A film that you guys did that's finally going to be out for the masses to see.
Yeah. So The Sinners, that was a really cool project for a couple of reasons. One, the filmmaker Courtney Page and I both came up in Vancouver, so we started in the film scene around the same time. Really, really talented director. She and I have been in contact about a project for several years. I know she's one of the hardest workers that I've known, and always had something on the go. So when The Sinners came about and we got on a call, she said, we're going to film it in Kelowna, which is my fiance's hometown. Jenna Racki, who is also an actress, she sent me the script. I read through it. There was this role called Summer, and I thought, like, this is a really cool role. I honestly think Jen would nail this. And so I got on the phone with Courtney, and we spoke about my character and sort of which role I could fill most efficiently. And I don't want to give too much of the plot away because I want people to watch it. I think it's going to be really good. But basically, a decision was made that I would be playing a slightly different role than originally had pitched, based on the fact that we both felt like what I brought to the table would be a lot more effective in that role. Like, sounded so
Yeah.
suspect because I'm not telling people exactly what it is, but watch the movie because you'll see it. It makes sense. But we also had Jen put this scene on tape for Summer, and she smashed it, like,
Dude,
right out of
she's
the park.
I was telling you before we started. I mean, she's unbelievable in the film. It
Yeah.
just that she, like, knocked it out of the park. Like, I just gotta say
And,
that.
and across the board, like,
Yeah.
everyone involved in that film, there was not one lackluster performance. The film, it came together so well. And to be able to go back to Kelowna, Jen's hometown, and do something that has such international appeal with a bunch of really talented artists, like, it's cool to see it getting the attention it deserves and the distribution it deserves, because I really feel like it's gonna have a lot of success. So kudos to Courtney and her team, because this project's gonna go places.
And another thing that I don't think people might know about it or not, but you and Jen, you guys have your own production company. You have Media Button, which
Yeah.
is amazing. You guys are always writing and producing and everything. You got something that you're in that's in the works now, a film called Whistle. I mean, when did you kind of know that you were gonna just not just act and kind of be behind the camera also, Dylan?
Let's take it way back. So in the 5th grade, I was told I had severe ADD and ADHD, which at the time I thought was the walls falling down and the sky was falling. I had a real hard time in class. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't pay attention to one thing. I was buzzing. And at the time, it was something that I did not like about myself. And after hockey, I realized, oh, this is such an asset. Like, I can't sit still. It's funny. My agent bugged me all the time. Like, if I'm not working, I'm like, hey, what's going on? What are we doing? Like, I'm used to being busy all the time. And with film and television, as I started my career and I sort of looked at the career paths of some of the people that I wanted to emulate,
Yeah.
I noticed that the majority of those actors and actresses who really sort of take destiny into their own hands produce their own stuff or direct their own stuff. And acting is great, but acting is such a small part of it. And I like the ability to look at a career as like a lifelong thing. People, I think, in other careers go, oh, I'll retire at this day and age. Well, I don't ever want to retire from acting. And I know how much work directing takes. I've seen how much work producing takes. Those are high energy things. So I figured, well, I want to do that as well. I've got the energy. And then, when I when I get old and gray, I'll just get back in front of the camera. But it's something that I think you can really, if you look at it as different sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
it's not as daunting. And when I'm on set, I do my best to pay attention to how the directors are handling the set and how they're making decisions. And then it's funny because when I first started, you have this idea of like this barrier to entry, and how do you become an actor? How do you become a director? And who's got the secret key and who's got the roadmap that makes sense. But when you get on those sets, you realize, like, if someone sees a genuine interest in what you're genuinely interested in, it's easy to talk about that. It's easy, if you have good intentions, to sort of want to share your knowledge with that person, because it's what you want to talk about. It's like guys who like hockey. You can sit around and talk hockey all day because it's what everyone wants to talk about. Well, the same thing goes for directors and producers and actors. If you find a group of people who are passionate about what they do, they don't keep those secrets to themselves. They tell you. I mean, and now on the internet, you can find in-depth interviews with the best actors and filmmakers in the world, and they all generally say the same thing. as far as like how to get to where they get to. And it's because they like talking about it. They like sharing it. They like being around people who elevate their craft. So I guess I just love every sort of element of storytelling and comedy. And if that means dabbling in directing, producing, script writing, I want to do it because I can't sit still.
And that kind of became Media Button that you and Jen are working on.
Yeah. So there's a cool story with that company. Jen's parents started it in the early 90s, and originally it was a web development firm.
Mm-hmm.
They started doing videos for their websites, and over time the video became the biggest revenue stream, while Jen and I were working on our own careers. Her parents hired her as a video producer to come back, and that was right around the same time we met. They were planning to retire. We sort of sat down with them and looked at what they'd done and where they wanted to go, and it really sort of aligned with our goals of taking over a company that had some corporate clients. Like we do all the Fortis videos, we do a bunch of stuff for CBC, and we wanted to implement a little bit more of a production centric model. Like they were coming from the web world and sort of filling these requests from their existing clients, and we saw this opportunity to expand on that and do some more creative stuff. So it kind of was like one of those things where the stars sort of aligned, and Jen and I were able to take over the company. They were able to retire, and it's been great in the pandemic because, like I said before, I can't really sit still. So the ability to stay motivated and active in that realm has been awesome, and it's hugely important for, I think, an actor to understand what's going on the other side of the camera. It gives you more of an appreciation for not just the story, but for the production process, which is a big process.
And what can you say a little bit about Whistle? Because I know there's a lot of projects on the go, but that's one of the projects on the go.
Whistle is really cool because it's a true story, based on a true story about Jen's mother's actual experience with her dad, a great person, but had binge drinking tendencies. And there's this, it's essentially a snapshot of this woman who goes back to deal with her father's estate. He's passed away. They go there for the funeral. She has to clean everything up. And while she's there, she confronts the memories of her childhood, one of which being driving to the bar at the age of 8 in a winter storm to pick her dad up because she knew he had work the next day. And, it seems so simple, but to an 8-year-old kid, like that's a big adventure. That's a big formative sort of moment. And that story for me is really cool because it kind of shows like there's so much love between those two people, but there's so much adversity that at the time isn't considered adversity. An 8-year-old kid doesn't go, this is garbage. This is what you got to do, right? So we're shooting that in my hometown of Fort St. James, which is a town of like 1,000 people, and it's a story based on Jen's very personal sort of memories, and we're doing it with a really small crew through Media Button. So it's a very, very dear project to me and to her, and it's one of our first really purely narrative projects. We've produced other things, but this will be one of our sort of first from concept to completion short films that we intend to eventually have a feature made out of.
It sounds like this, the backstory about Jen and her and her father and everything. It sounds like that's kind of an example of the fact that there's a trend I find in making content now that a lot of people are writing stuff about like their past and everything, because I find like that kind of hits hard and like they can really kind of grasp into it. Do you see that as a trend? Like people writing about their experiences a lot lately?
I don't know who said it, and I should have the guy's name, but it's someone who's written more than I have, and they said write about what you know.
Yeah.
So for me, we talked about it earlier. I ask myself sometimes, these hockey playing roles, what is the story here? Like, why does this keep happening? But it's very quite simple. I grew up so close to that. I was, my dad was a pro hockey coach. My uncle's a pro hockey player. Both my brothers play. I know that world in and out. I know the funny parts of it. I know the sad parts of it. I know the scary parts of it. I know those stories so intimately that it's not this it's not faking it, you know? And I think really good actors can find like their connection to those stories, you know? And if you're not, I think it's less about becoming someone else and more about finding those feelings and memories within yourself, whether it's comedy, drama, biopics, like identifying how you feel about that, and then just putting yourself in those circumstances of the character. So yeah, you know, I think it makes total sense, and I think it's something that if people did more of, there would be more honest, truthful stories. You know, like you see someone from Manhattan is probably going to have a harder time telling the story of like a Dust Bowl farm family in the 30s dealing with, like, you know, a depression. Like, it's such a different world. You can still do it, don't get me wrong, but that hurdle of research is so much taller than someone who's doing a story about, you know, a memory of theirs or something that they've been intimately close to, and I think that's a
Absolutely.
bit of a no-brainer, you know.
Oh no, absolutely. Dylan, thank you so much for coming back on Popternative, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Petey, my pleasure, man. Let's do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot of things on the go. I mean, Mighty Ducks Game Changers, end of March on Disney Plus. Letterkenny. Eventually, we're gonna. Like,
Yeah,
look for-
Letterkenny about to do a new season here in the springtime, so expect another batch of Letterkenny Game Changers end of March. I think the
Yep.
24th, but we'll have to circle back on that. The Sinners is coming out on Amazon, and well, Google it, you'll find it.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic film. Yeah, there's gonna be a little bit more of my face on the TV screen. So thanks for
And where
Thanks
can
for-
people follow you on social media again? Keep up to date with everything.
yeah, definitely. So on Instagram at Dylan Playfair 1 and Twitter at Dylan Playfair 1, I believe. Both the same.
Well, this
Yeah.
has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Dylan Playfair and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.